Hey there, Reading Olympians. This is Mr. Salerno, and in this video, I'm going to show you how to do a couple things. I'll show you how to sign into Who's Reading, how to log your reading and create practice questions, and finally, how to customize your owl with some good owl swag. Let's get started. All right, let's log into Who's Reading so we can log our reading. Tap Alfonso, that opens up the login page. Tap Login, tap Student. And then it's the same login information as used in class. First initial, last name. So if it was Hermione Granger, it would be H. Granger. And then if Hermione was a fifth grader, she'd use 27. If she's a fourth grader, she'd use 28. And then password is capital K, lowercase d, lowercase m, and then your lunch number. So 280, whatever. Then tap login. And this is your dashboard. This is what you'll see when you log in. Now I'm logged in under Healthy Dose of Books, which is the account that Mr. Ellis and I use. That's our teacher account. So you might see something slightly different, but it's pretty much the same. The first thing you need to do is start logging your questions. And you could see I have a little meter here for practice questions. It's at 0 right now, 0 out of 12. 12 is your goal for the end of Reading Olympics. You need to get to 12 total. Remember, 7 by January. I need to log my first set of practice questions. So tap Practice Questions. It then opens up with some picks that Mr. Ellis and I selected for you, but those are not the only books on Reading Olympics, obviously. You can search for books by title that are on the Reading Olympics list, or you can just select one there if this is one that you've read. Let's choose Arusha, one of my favorites on the list this year. And then you see the option to choose your question. Now, Mr. Ellis and I set this up so the only thing you can choose is the option to write 3 practice questions in Q&A format. We're going to skip only because we already saw this stuff in class. Now, this is what you should see. Write 3 practice questions in Q&A format. If you just type in Q1 and then start writing the first question. And then continue on with your next 2 questions and answers. All right, so now I've gone through and I've added my second set of questions, Q2, A2, Q3, A3. It is important to note that if you do have to stop in the middle of your work, you can save your work for later. And then come back and finish your answer if you do have to stop in the middle of your work. And then you also have to tell Alfonso to go away again. All right, my questions are done. My answers are done. They're all in Q&A format, so finish question. Now, Alfonso may give you some suggestions for how to improve your score and earn bonus coins. But because we're using this feature slightly differently for Reading Olympics, you may or may not want to follow his advice. If you do choose to follow his advice and revise your questions for more coins, just make sure that your response still meets the requirements that we talked about at our Reading Olympics meeting. Once you are done, tap Finish Question. After we submit, we see that we earn some coins automatically, and looking at the score, it's 2.5 out of 4. That's because Who's Reading automatically scores your responses as soon as you submit. That's not the score you should be focused on. Mr. Ellis and I will go in and score your response, and that's the score that really matters. That's our way of showing you what we think of your work, and it's also a factor in how we choose our captains. Now I see I've finished one set of practice questions for Arusha, so I can go back to my home page just by tapping Who's Reading up there at the top. And now I see I have 1 out of my 12 practice questions done. There are other things you can do to earn coins as well, like take quizzes, write reviews, log the number of minutes you read. You don't need to do any of that, but if you want to earn more coins, that's an option for you. You can also tap that little egg that's shaking there. Yay! Now, once you fill up that bar, once you get 12 out of 12, that's it. You're done. You don't have to submit any more sets of practice questions. If you want to, you can. But don't stop reading. Remember, the more you read, the more you help your team. All right, so some other features you can check out in Who's Reading. Most popular is the Owl Shop, which is at the top of the page. This is where you can edit your owl avatar. You can customize it to look the way you want, but you do have to earn coins to do that. And the way to earn coins is by completing practice questions and doing some of those extra features that we talked about. Some other things you can check out in the top left-hand corner is My Shelf. On My Shelf, you could see all the books that you've read. Now, it looks like I've read 2 books, Arusha and Bigger Than a Bread Box. But when I go to my dashboard, it only says 1 out of 12. Well, if I go back to My Shelf, that's where I can see that Bigger Than a Bread Box, I didn't complete a practice question for yet. So that's a way that you can look and see not only which books you've read, but also make sure that you've answered the practice questions for those books. You could tap on Class, and you'll be able to see the different books that different members of the class have read. As more and more kids read those books, we'll see more owl avatars appear below them so we can see what's the most popular. You can see the class tree. It's pretty lonely right now. It's just me and Mr. Ellis hanging out on that branch alone. That'll fill up once we get your accounts in there. And that about covers it, folks. If you have any additional questions, just shoot me or Mr. Ellis an email. Thank you for watching, and thank you for joining Reading Olympics.